Good morning. Welcome to the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. We will begin this meeting at 9:02. If you can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Reverend Scott Elliott of Big Valley Christian School.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me as we pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this beautiful day. I thank you for everyone that serves on this board. I thank you for their drive and dedication, all the hours that they put in to serve our county and to make this place where we live just an incredible place for families and for businesses. Father, I thank you for all that's being done this month, just to honor those of Hispanic heritage, to celebrate and honor them. And I thank you for their businesses, for their work here, for their families, their culture, all the things that they contribute to making our area just a really fantastic place to be. Father, I just pray your blessing. I ask for your protection over our city, our county, our schools here, our churches. Lord, this is a great place to live, and you have blessed this land so much. And we thank you for all that you do here, and we pray your blessing over everyone who's in attendance today. We pray that you would guide the meeting. We thank you for all the details and preparations that have been made to go into everything that's going to be done. And we ask you to just be with us. And I pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. All right, next we will have a presentation by Carolina Alfaro, the director of CSU Stanislaus, proclaiming September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month here in Stanislaus County. Director, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Carolina Alfaro. I'm the director of the Warrior Cross-Cultural Center at Stanislaus State, also a board member and a founder of the Chicano theater troupe Teatro Los Hijos del Campo. I'm a resident of Turlock, California, and I'm proud to be here, excited to be here. As you know, September 15th marks the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month. It is a celebration of the myriad of cultures and ethnicities that make up the diverse populations of the Hispanic and Latin American communities, and the many contributions they've made to the growth and prosperity of the United States. Hispanic Heritage Month, which grew out of the Civil Rights Movement in 1968, is significant for the historical markers it represents: independence for the Latin American countries such as Chile, Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and Nicaragua. During this month, we celebrate the diverse cultures, rich histories, and social, cultural, and economic achievements of community members of the Caribbean, Central American, Mexican, South American, and Spanish descent. Hispanic Heritage Month not only celebrates the richness of the diversity that is rooted in Latin American countries and territories, but it also celebrates the contributions and unique perspectives that strengthen the fabric of our United States and the power that comes from being within a united community, which is reflected in this year's theme, Todos Somos, we are all, we are one. The U.S. Hispanic population reached 63.7 million in 2022, making it the nation's largest racial and ethnic minority. In 2022, Hispanics made up nearly 1 in 5 people in the U.S., that's 19%, up from 16% in 2010. Our county's Hispanic Latino population makes up about 50% of the demographics according to the last census. Both of our local higher educational systems, Modesto Junior College and Stanislaus State, have the recognition and designation as an HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution, with MJC's Hispanic Latino population making up close to 32% of the campus demographics, and Stanislaus State's Hispanic Latino population making up close to 62% of campus demographics, according to last year's enrollment reports. The Hispanic Latino demographics in health, business, and the arts also continue to rise within the spectrum and evolving identities. Today, you will meet quite a few of them today. Our proclamation today will be a reminder to our Hispanic Latino community that we matter, that we exist, and that we as a county are making significant strides to becoming more inclusive by continuing to highlight the shared experiences and stories of our community. In recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month, we just want to thank the many generations of Latinos, Hispanics in our county, in our past, the leaders, past and present, who have contributed to making Stanislaus County a better place to live. We celebrate each of them and honor them and the impact that they have made. We also take a moment to thank all of you, our board, for acknowledging, recognizing, and celebrating us. It is with great gratitude that we show our appreciation. There are 4 organizations representing different sectors, along with individuals who work alongside our board on an ongoing basis, and we want to just make sure we represent them. Representatives from the educational sector is Stanislaus State, from the health sector, Golden Valley Health Centers, from the arts sector, Casa Cultural, and the business sector, Mango Crazy, as well as international business entrepreneur, Mr. John Jacinto, along with Albertina Reynoso, Carlos Torres from Redeemer Church, Cynthia Ruiz, CUSD trustee, Debbie Martinez, education activist, Isaiah Herrera, Jose Zavala of STEP, Juan Diego Escalante, community member, Maria Quintana, Patterson Promotora, Maria Cristina Martinez, Patterson Promotora, Marta Villaseñor, South Modesto MAC, Miguel Dinoso, Community Advocate, Mireya Santibáñez, South Modesto Promotora, Nelson Gomez, President for South Modesto Business United, Olivia Esquives Gonzalez, member of the County Behavioral Health Board, Rebecca Harrington, South Modesto MAC Chair, Veronica Barron, Patterson Promotora. At this time, I'm going to ask that you all please join me, comunidad. You can join me up as we all join in this recognition together.
Good morning. Please come up, join us. Hey. So I'm going to just, read some of the remarks from the proclamation today, and then we'll take a photo. And if anybody would like to say any short comments, they're more than welcome to. So Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated nationwide from September 15th through October 15th each year. Understanding that September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for many Latin American countries, such as Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their Independence Days on September 16th and 18th, respectively. Each year, the National Council of Hispanic Employment Program Managers announces a Hispanic Heritage Month theme. This year, the 2023 observance theme is Todos somos uno. We are all one. We are one. Hispanic Heritage Month is a great opportunity to celebrate with the greater community, to highlight the rich heritage, arts, histories, food, music, and traditions of all 26 plus Latin American nations. The rich cultural traditions of the Hispanic American community have had a remarkable impact on American society. The diverse backgrounds of Hispanic Americans and their dedication to family have become an integral part of America. Today, we honor Hispanic Americans for their extraordinary contributions. They are our teachers and business owners, scientists and soldiers, farm workers and first responders, artists and activists, colleagues and friends. They make incalculable contributions to our neighborhoods, communities, and every sector of our economy. And we are a greater and more vibrant place because of them. The Hispanic American Heritage Observance began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson, and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover the 30-day period we currently celebrate. So let it be resolved that Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors does hereby unanimously proclaim September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month in Stanislaus County.
First of all, I'd like to thank the County Board of Supervisors for acknowledging that We Are La Raza as an activist is very vital for our children of today. Disadvantaged population of children, that's where we come in to make sure that they get equal opportunity at their school sites first time around. I'd like to thank my in-laws for being here. I'd like to thank Ceres Unified School District for supporting We Are La Raza all the time, and everybody else that's in the audience that knows of We Are La Raza, thank you for attending today. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to say, on behalf of our communities, I want to say thank you very much for all of you who become to celebrate this moment and to give us a big honor to remember that todos somos uno y uno somos todos. Let's continue to celebrate not only this moment, but the diversity that we are in this county and the richness of learning from each other. Thank you very much.
Solamente quiero agradecer a mis compañeras, las promotoras acá. Muchas gracias a todas ustedes. Estamos aquí por el logro que ustedes han hecho en comunidad. Las quiero bien mucho. Hemos estado cruzando muchas barreras y gracias a Chance porque siempre nos ha reconocido. Y gracias a ti, Chance, por reconocernos a nuestro grupo. Arriba, arriba, arriba.
Good morning, Chair Condit and esteemed board members. My name is Rebecca Ortega Harrington. I am a community activist and helping our community. I've been with our South Modesto MAC since 2008. But one of the things I want to remind everybody is that we are a community of many people, of many nations, of many different aspects of diversity. Not all of us have 100% Hispano Indian blood, but we have parts of it. Our esteemed chair, Chance Condit, is also Latino, which brings me, yes. So, and what I really want to bring to pass is that for everyone to understand that at a very young age, my grandmother, who was from Juchipila, Zacatecas, and and my parents are first generation, I'm second generation. But one thing very important that she always taught me, de la misma tela venimos. We are all cut from the same cloth. Doesn't mean we have to be the entire cloth, but we are a part of it. And that is the one thing that we need to continue to remember. We do that when we helped the United Farm Workers in 1975, when we did everything that we could to keep our culture and our traditions alive. We've been doing that now most recently with Dia de los Muertos, and I will give you more information about that later. But again, I want to thank our chair, Chance Condit, with his Latino S blood in him, that we recognize that and that we pay tribute to it, and to always remember that we are, at some point in time, we are all one. Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to say from my community, I just have a year and 6 months, I think so. And for our community, I just thank Chan. Thank you so much for everything. And we're all Hispanos, like Rebecca said, but I really thank him so much because we never had a person like Chan. So he's the best one of all. Thank you.
You're very sweet.
Good morning. Good morning. On behalf of the
South Modesto Business United and other communities, organizations in the South Modesto area. I want to thank Chance Condit and the Board of Supervisors for recognizing the Hispanic Heritage Month. It's very important to us as Hispanics to know that we are recognized by the community at large and that we are here to contribute to the community, to Stanislaus County and Central Valley. And so we want to say thank you, Chairman Condit and the Board of Supervisors for recognizing us today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I want to say I feel blessed to live in this county, Stanislaus County. And the month of September, we celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month and Suicide Prevention Awareness. And because of our group, I'm alive. And thank you.
God bless.
Buenos dias, Laura Cristina, born and raised in Airport neighborhood and a product of 2 immigrating families and 2 inspirational women in this room with me today. Thanks to them, they taught me that with ganas, passion, your fuego will never go, and that community is built and those leadership skills one act at a time. So that's my mother and Carolina Alfaro. Thanks to them, I am standing in the role now as founder and director of Your Casa Cultural here in the Central Valley, promoting leaders of tomorrow through each act of arte, cultura, tradición, through the universal dance of language. Thank you.
We'll take a photo. We'll go ahead and we'll take a photo. We can all bunch in. Right here. You're perfect. Yeah.
Everybody's not ready?
Thank you for being here. And please meet Erica, Ignacio in the lobby, and they will be giving out the proclamations. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Good to see you. So please meet her out in the lobby.
Thank you, Chan.
Well, we definitely want to thank all of our community members for showing up today and for representing and accepting the proclamation. Okay, we'll be moving on to the public comment period. Just a reminder that public comment is a time for those in attendance to speak on items not related to the agenda. Please state your name for the record, direct all comments towards the dais, and so that it's fair for every speaker, please keep the comments to the 5-minute time limit. I do have a couple comment cards. The first comment card I have is from Mr. Bill Johnson. Mr. Johnson is the chair of the VAC here for Stanislaus County, and we appreciate his service not only to the county but to our nation.
All right.
Thank you. I'm former chair. Last night we picked a new one. We picked a female veteran who is going to really bring our commission forward. I'm here to thank you, the Board of Supervisors, for all the support you've given us, the veterans. I hope that continues. We have a good working relationship. It was nice to have Manny and Buck at our meeting last night. Chance was represented by Mr. Fowler. Anyway, I just want you to know that we're pushing the commission forward. We're going to do more stuff along the lines of mental health, veteran suicide prevention, counseling. We have some good plans. I hope to come back to the board with a report by the end of the year. And anyway, I just want to thank you guys for your support, also for your new program of the Veteran of the Year. I think it's about time that the veterans, for the service they've done to this country, to this community, they get the recognition they deserve. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And again, thank you for your service. Next card we have is from Jose Espindola. Jose, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Good morning again. Just because I was here 6 months ago and I had this issue with the Stanislaus County Sheriffs, and supposedly they sent an investigator out, but I never heard from him. And well, me and my son had this property. He passed away, and but I see, we had a roofing company for 23 years. And the Stanislaus County Sheriffs raided the place and never even, without a search warrant, never even got an apology from them. And I just want to know why. The property is in Stanislaus County, Merced County. What were they doing over there and haven't received an apology? For doing that to me, it has cost me and my family lots of pain and suffering. And I just want an apology. And Mr. Howard, supposedly an investigator, haven't heard from him to give me an apology from the Stanislaus County Sheriffs, because I deserve it. So that's all I got to say. You guys have my information, and have him call me to settle this out, because that's all I want. It's an apology, okay?
Jose, can you remind me the address? I'm sorry.
My address?
No, the address of
the place?
Yeah.
All we have is an appraisal number.
A parcel?
A parcel number.
Can you either leave that with the clerk if you don't have it handy?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jose.
Okay, bye.
Our next comment card is from Ana Maria Madrigal. Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to say good morning to all of you. I think you know me by now. My name is Ana Maria Madrigal. This is my father, Miguel Madrigal. Again, we are here to ask for a resolution on the problem that we've been having. With the county, we continue to get strong-armed by county council instead of resolving our issue. We have done everything on the list and some to comply with the petitions and the codes. And we continue to get strong-armed by council instead of resolving our issue. You're smiling, Mr. Thomas. Do you have a resolution for us? I hope we get this resolved. I feel like we're being singled out, and let me tell you why. I've received a few phone calls this past few weeks from some of our neighbors who I have good relationships with, and they have advised me that county employees, I don't know if I wanted to assume that they have taken it upon themselves to contact my neighbors and instigate for them to talk negatively about me and my family gatherings. And I don't think that's right, because earlier I heard celebration, heritage, culture, and that's exactly what we've been doing. We have a large property, yes, and we have a large property to celebrate our family. I myself I have 10 siblings, we're 11. My father, 29 brothers and sisters. If we do the math, it's very simple. There's 52 weeks in a year. We celebrate our celebrations outdoors. Are we being penalized to celebrate? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm fully aware for what we are being penalized for celebrating, there's many locations out there that are really doing everything that you are penalizing us for. And even so, we have paid those fines, even though we shouldn't have, because since when do you get penalized to celebrate or have a party or a large gathering? Are we being penalized because we have a large family? I don't know. I mean, is that a new code? I haven't seen it anywhere. And we've asked multiple times. Now we have asked council to respond. We have offered in multiple times a resolution in writing, and not one has been responded in writing to us as, yes, we will meet, mediate, and resolve this matter. We have already paid. You guys want us to make this commercial and pay different permits. We went ahead and did it. I don't know if you're aware. So I don't know where the communication is missing. Maybe you don't have. I know some of you, and I hear Mr. Condit, the great work you do. Mr. Withrow, I know some of the work that you do. Mr. Vito, I know some of the work that you do. I want to know, are you guys not getting the communication that has been given to council from our council? Have you not read the communication that is going back and forth? Why are we not receiving a resolution and resolve this so that we can move on? Like I said last time, it's affecting my father's health. We shouldn't have to be here. We should be taking care of the family matters, the community. I mentioned last time, our family alone provides over 700 jobs during harvest season, 200 year-round. My dad, when we left last time, he told me, Mija, they don't want us here. We just need to pick up and go. After 50 years of being here, I don't think that's fair. But if we do have to do that, I will not allow for my father's health to continue deteriorating because we can't resolve this. I'd rather pick up and go, but those 700 jobs will go with us. I want you to know that. And it would be a shame for us to do that. At this point of his life, he's 75. I don't think it's a good time for him to have to start a new life somewhere else. So I leave here and I ask that you please communicate with council. Whatever you need to do, whatever we need to do to resolve, let us know. We want to resolve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Arabelle Morales. Good morning.
Good morning. Board, I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I come as pretty much a character witness for the Madrigal family. Ana Media just spoke, as you well heard. I want to express my gratitude to, first of all, the Stanislaus County and the city of Ceres as well. In the spirit of Hispanic Heritage Month, as a direct beneficiary of our culture and where I grew up as well, the Central Valley, and to the Madrigal family. They've been a blessing to many, many people. They've been a staple in the community, as you well heard and you well know. They employ many, many folks, whether citizens or migrant workers. And it's our bread and butter, the Central Valley. And my main purpose for being here today, Mr. Bowes, is to reiterate her message and to say, yes, they have a big family, and yes, they have many, many celebrations. Chairman, as you may possibly, how can I put it, relate to having a big family. Sir Manny, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name at the moment, but we all come from a diverse background. And yes, we are one, and we will always be one, no matter what culture we're in. We all celebrate, we all have dates and times in our lives where we want to uplift each other, whether it's with family, whether it's with the community, with philanthropy as well. We all need a space to celebrate, a safe space. Retaliation, being stonewalled, being strong-armed is not okay. This family has given so much to our community. They far reach our community across the valley. Personally, for myself and my family, they were there for me in my time of need during the pandemic. They housed me when I could not house myself and my family without asking for anything back. And the least I could do is come before you to let you know that we care for each other. We do. Our community binds together, as you saw earlier. We help each other, we bring together a sense of community where there is none, a sense of benefit where there is none, a sense of shelter where there is none. I am a direct beneficiary of that. And I'm asking you as a direct beneficiary from where we are from, culturally and by this family, to open up your heart and your mind and your rationalization and listen to what she has to say. The last thing we need is for a well-established family to leave our community, for there to be a void in our agricultural system where there are workers that will not be employed and will not come. During the pandemic, they employed a lot of folks where nobody, not even migrant workers, wanted to go out in the fields. They did extra to support our community and to provide to the agriculture needs in our area. Surely they deserve to be heard and addressed directly. They make an impact and a difference in our community. It's a shame that she has to come up here time and time again to address the same issues and to be flexible and compliant. It's a shame. And it's a shame that she has to bring up the race card, bring up the family volume card. Does she have to go there? I ask that you look within yourselves and listen to what she has to say. Reach out to her and her family. It's honestly sad that she has to come publicly and speak on her dad's health and say it's affecting his health. Personally, not that it matters to anyone here probably, but I don't have my parents. I would give 5 minutes to sit down and have coffee with my father and with my mother. And I completely understand, and I personally justify her coming here to speak
over and over again until she is heard. So if you can, and if you will, and if you can take some time to chisel out of your day, because I know you're busy, please reach out and address the matter with a response at the very least, an acknowledgement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rebecca Harrington. Rebecca, good morning again.
Good morning, Mr. Hayes, Chairman Condit, esteemed members of the board. First of all, I just want to invite our entire community, outstretching all of Stanislaus County, to, I believe, our 7th annual Dia de los Muertos celebration, which began in 2016 as just a thought in passing as how we could better address some of the cultural differences that we had and that were not being visited. I'm sure many of you remember in 2016 there were very many disparaging remarks that were made about our community as a whole. And I think we all understand that some of those things that were being stated were not just specific to our Mexican American, Latino community, Hispanic community. It happens in every community. It just so happened that we were the group of choice that year. So with that being said, I just want to kind of give everybody just a quick synopsis of what we're doing. We will be beginning our event on October 21st at 11 a.m. We're going to begin with Aztec dancers from Casa Cultural. They will be dancing in the intersection of 10th and J Streets. And then we will have mariachi at 11:30 for 2 hours. And then we'll go back and have some more entertainment in the intersection. And then we will bring in the beautiful and lovely vocalist Liliana Hernandez. She will be singing from 2 to 3. And then we go back again to the intersection area. But also, we are very blessed to have sponsors who are going to be sponsoring the movie Coco at the State Theater. So we're going to be sharing that because there's a whole group of children who have not had the honor of actually seeing it in the big movie theater. They've seen it at home and on TV, but they haven't seen it in a theater, which is just, again, a wonderful experience to have. And that's at 2:30 in the afternoon. And then we have another local group called the Wet Banditos, one of my favorites. They just play a lot of different music. They play Mexican music, rock and roll, they play country music, they play Tex-Mex, they play cumbias and salsa and just a little bit of everything. Very well received in the community. And then again, we will have Casa Cultural doing another dance in the intersection at about 5:30 p.m. And then we will go on with 6 p.m. having the David Perez Band. They will be on stage from 6 to 7:30. We will have this year, to invite everyone to come, a beautiful candlelight procession that will begin at 7:30. And I believe we're going to begin at the intersection of 11th and J Street, come down a block, turn right, and come onto 10th Street. And we will finish up the evening with Casa Cultural's Aztec dancers to close off the evening. This year, we have 45 vendors coming in from as far away as Los Angeles and Oxnard, throughout the Central Valley, Bay Area. We have 20 nonprofit agencies represented, and they will be out there from 11 to 3, because I believe that we shouldn't just be out there having fun, but we should find a way to disseminate information. There are some county offices that will be represented there. The Office of Voters and Registrars will be there, Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, and then many others. We also have a lot of food trucks coming in, and individual persons doing this. And I can honestly tell you that we have a large group of women who are coming in as their own business owners of their businesses. We are very proud that we are mainly mainly organized by women. But most of all, we are under the umbrella of Veterans and Community Advocacy, doing business as the American GI Forum, presenting Dia de los Muertos. So I cordially invite all of you to come. I believe you will enjoy the event. We're going to be presented on Estrella TV. I'm doing a commercial on the river. We're going to be on 3 different Spanish-speaking stations in the radio area here. We are also going to have some coverage with Modesto View, the Modesto Bee, and the Turlock Journal, and then anybody else who wants to give us a time to speak about our event. But I just really would love to have all of you join us, and I do appreciate the support that I have received from our Board of Supervisors and from the City of Modesto, who is also one of our main sponsors. Again, I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for allowing us to continue to do this beautiful cultural traditional event that showcases the beauty of our culture. And like I said, de la misma tela venemos. Usted sí sabe lo que digo. And I appreciate everybody that can attend, and I want to thank you all again for your time.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right, that is all the comment cards I have. Is there any other members of the public who wish to comment during this time? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comment period, and we'll be moving on to the consent calendar. Now, I do have one consent item that will need to be commented on, item D2. And
yes,
go ahead, Tom.
Yes, so we have a conflict on item D2, and I think it deserves some preliminary comments or explanation. Last year, the state legislature adopted some amendments to the Political Reform Act that require announcement and no longer participating in items where an elected has received a contribution to their campaign. We have one of those issues today. We have a campaign contribution on item D2, and Supervisor Condit must step aside on that decision based solely on the new law. So with that, it'd be appropriate for you to step out and for the board to make a decision on that item. All right. You're up. It's item D2. Let me see here. I lost it. Yeah, here it is.
Just taking out vote on, let me just read
There it is. Is that D1? I lost it. D2. D2. Yeah, here it is. Mine wasn't stapled. Approval to set it.
All right. Good morning. So filling in for Chair Condit, approval to set a public hearing on October 31st, 2023 at 9 a.m. to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval of the cancellation of the development agreement for Central Valley Growers. Anybody in the public that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, bringing it back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. All right, motion by Supervisor B. Condit and Supervisor Withrow. All in favor?
Aye.
Go. Is it a roll call vote? All in favor? Aye.
No, we don't.
Perfect. All right, thank you. I hope I executed the bunt perfectly.
All right, well, we will move on to the rest of the consent calendar. Do any members of the board wish to comment on any items on consent? Okay, seeing none, do any members of the public wish to comment on any items on consent? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for either more comments or action.
Motion to approve the consent calendar minus D2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Chiesa and a second by Supervisor Graywall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously 5-0. Okay, moving on to public hearings. We have a public hearing to consider and formally adopt the 2024 adopted budget for the 2-year budget period ending in June 30th, 2024. We have a presentation by CEO Hayes and team.
All right, good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to kick off this presentation. I'm actually going to cover a few slides this morning as we get started. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone who has participated in the preparation of the 2024 adopted budget. This includes all of our county department heads that spend a lot of time along with their budget teams to prepare the recommendations that are before you today, along with the analysis and everything it takes to put together over 400 pages of an adopted budget. I also want to thank our Chief Executive Office budget team for putting this together on all of their behalfs. We have several folks who are participating in our presentation this morning. Our Deputy Executive Officers, Joel Warren and Angelica Ramos. We also have Senior Management Consultants, Patrick Kavanaugh and Joshua Woolworth. I also want to let you know that we've invited some department heads. Has become our tradition to help shed some additional light on the impacts to their departments that the adopted budget brings. So we will be pleasure to be joined this morning also by our district attorney, our county assessor, and our county planning director will be joining us this morning in today's presentation. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get us started with our first slide. And we usually start with a quote. This quote was from Peter Drucker: "The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic." Now, I will admit we're not in exactly turbulent times right now, but this quote was important to us because it emphasizes that we do need to adjust our thinking when the situation requires that. And certainly over this last year, for those of us in the budget preparation mode, you're very, very well aware that we have adjusted some of the standards upon which we've had to make our recommendations just based on the changes in our current economic conditions. They're not turbulent today, but hopefully with those wise choices will prevent them from being turbulent in the future. The first thing we're going to do this morning is a little bit different than what we usually do, and we're going to go over some of what we in our office call budget fundamentals. I'm very pleased that our budget team was able to prepare just a few slides to describe our process, and we're going to do this once a year during adopted budget just to remind all of ourselves, and even for me there were a couple of reminders along the way that I've lost sight of in the past, to make sure that we all understand the foundations and the structure upon which we form our annual adopted budget each year. So I'm going to go through these slides and then kick it over to the team to talk about the year's actual budget, but I want to spend some time just talking about the process because it is very important in understanding how we get to where we are. The process is key to that entire effort. The first thing I want to acknowledge is that the County Budget Act really sets forward the structure upon which we work. You can see the government code citation there on the screen. We do have to make a budget available to the public by September 8th of each year, and we always hit that target. We have to leave it posted for at least 10 days for everybody to take a look at, and then the board does have to adopt this final budget by October 2nd. One of the other nuances is that the board can, you conduct this public hearing, but your public hearing cannot be more than 14 days. And I'm really proud to let you all know we've never come close to that here in Stanislaus County. But apparently some counties need that kind of a restriction, not here in our community. The next is the local county ordinance which guides the budget process, and that is the responsibility of the Chief Executive Officer, which is delegated down through the staff and the various departments. But our responsibilities as the CEO is to direct the annual budget preparation, to evaluate the requests, and to ensure the alignment with priorities and policies. So it's very clear that we're directed by the Board of Supervisors to evaluate all of those requests that come into the Chief Executive Office. Obviously to consider all of our available funding sources. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. And then to develop those recommendations and supporting financial strategies along the way. I do want to recognize that the county code for the CEO is very, very clear, and for our departments, it then allows us to then delegate down additional responsibilities, which are on the next screen. So our department heads receive instructions each year on how to develop their budgets. We ask them to evaluate their customer and program needs. They are the subject matter experts. They know what is needed within the community far more than we would. We do ask them to perform critical analysis and long-term planning and to identify funding strategies to set a balanced budget. You'll hear a little bit later that in our budget policies, we have a fundamental policy that the general fund is the payer of last resort for our county budget recommendations. So we do ask all departments, when they're bringing forward budget recommendations, to bring forward funding sources in any way that they can to help support those recommendations as well. That is baked into our process. And then ultimately, they submit those requests based on those identified needs and any funding sources that they've been able to bring to bear. In the next slide, we want to cover what are some of the policies. The board has approved through the years a variety of policies, and these policies can be changed by the board. Some of these are very long-standing. They've been in place as long as I've been with the county organization, for over 20 years. The policy has not changed. Some of these are newer to us over time. We've had to modify our policies given certain situations or given learning within our own organization. So I'm going to just cover what are some of these policies that we have and what are they intended to do. The first is an appropriations for contingencies policy. So every final budget we bring to you includes a contingency budget that we set aside some funding each year just in case we have unforeseen circumstances that occur. We have a policy around how to do that and how much to save each year. We have an appropriations transfer policy that really guides the movement of appropriations authority between the various cost categories within budget units. So our departments receive a certain amount of funding, and we have specific policies on how you can move that funding around and how much of that gets delegated down to the Chief Executive Office. We have a specific policy on fund balance, and basically creates the standards for some of our specific fund balance accounts within the general fund, particularly our contingency reserve and debt service reserves. We have a general fund contribution policy, and this is, I've already mentioned it once before, and it's a specific policy from the Board of Supervisors that says that our preeminent understanding of the budget is that the general fund is the payer of last resort. Another policy that's been around for quite some time is what we refer to as our no backfill policy. This is our understanding that state and federal programs are based on the level of funding provided through those state and federal sources, and that the general fund will not replace any of those loss of funding over time. So when we approve funding for positions that are grant related and so forth, it comes with the understanding that when the grant goes away, those positions go away as well. Realignment revenue policy gives us direction on how and when our realignment base and growth revenue would be included in the budget. And then this last policy is the classic, it's last but certainly not least. This is the one that really guides a large portion of our recommendations in the development of any budget, and that is the use of one-time funds. This guidance basically establishes that ongoing expenditures for programs and staffing should not be supported by the use of one-time reserves. And of course, there are times in which those two will intersect in different ways, but it's a very, very important tenet of the budget development process to ensure that as we're adding services in the community, that those services are sustainable, and that when we have one-time revenue sources, whether they may be our savings account or other funds that come to us on a one-time basis, they are to be directed for one-time needs. It's a very, very important policy that we stick to every way we can throughout the development of our budget each year. So thank you for going through those policies. I'm going to do one more slide, and this is kind of a pictorial we put together to just describe the role of the Chief Executive Office and then the role of the Board of Supervisors in our development process. I mentioned the budget's over 400 pages. There's a lot of complex analysis that goes into that. But at its heart, it really is, this is the simplest way we can describe the work that we do. We analyze the needs from department requests, but in addition to department requests, we are tracking on a whole host of current and future liabilities. At any given point in time, we have liabilities that need to be covered that are constantly changing, as well as future liabilities we can foresee 2 or 3 years from now. We add those with our department requests, and we add them all up and we say, okay, what are all of those needs? For reference, in this most recent budget development, we had over $129 million in requests from departments. And of those amount, department requests for general fund specifically were over $35 million in general fund requests come into this adopted budget. we then look at our resources. And we essentially have two resources to draw upon. We have our revenue projections, which are constantly being refined, and in some years are looking really, really good and supporting us in development and growth. In other years, they're not. And it is a cyclical process, just like the economy is. And then we have our fund balance, is what we refer to it as. But for those of you not in our daily world, you can just call it the county savings account. That is our general fund savings account. So we balance all of those needs with those resources, and we form this budget that's before you today. The Board of Supervisors does have an active role in this process. They come into briefings with the Chief Executive Office early in the process, where we share some initial findings with them, make sure they're informed of department requests, and we receive their input on how we might be able to shape this recommended budget. But ultimately, on this next part here, in terms of the board's role, there really are three things the board can do with any given budget. They can approve the budget with no changes, which is pretty self-explanatory. Board can actually reduce the budget. They can decrease revenues and expenditures if the board chooses, for whatever reason the board may decide by fourth-fifth vote is what it requires. You do have to have a balanced budget, so any changes the board makes to the budget needs to remain in balance. And then you can increase the budget, which is generally where the focus is. Like, do we want to increase this budget? Do we want to add some things to the budget? And here we've laid out the ways in which you can do that, and essentially the four different mechanisms to increase a county budget. The board could seek to increase revenue projections. So they could maybe, follow up on some of our revenue analysis and ask us some questions, and the board could decide, hey, we think we're going to have some more revenues in this year, which would then support additional appropriations or expenditures, what we call them. Or the board could use our budget contingency. We have some contingency funds built in, and they could begin the process of activating those contingency funds. The board could use the county savings account. They could make a decision to say we want to spend down more of our savings to increase some of the budget, or you could shift funding between county departments. We felt it was important because we've had lots of questions around, based on, we have had a change in our budget direction essentially in this cycle, and we're getting to the point where we're having to, we're not in a position to approve as many requests as we may have been in prior years. So it's really important that we delineate what are the options going forward. And certainly it's at the board's pleasure to do that as you consider all of what's presented to you today, information from county departments, information from the public as well, and any of the work that you may have done offline in preparation for today's budget. So with all of that, that equals the Board of Supervisors' adopted budget, and I appreciate all of you taking that 10 minutes to walk through those basic budget fundamentals with me. We won't do this in every budget presentation, but we'll probably roll this out about once a year, just as a reminder. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jewel Bohr, who's going to get into the process of how we developed this particular budget that's before you today.
Thank you, Jody. So as you've seen, the budget process is an extensive one, which requires a solid methodology in which to evaluate the request representing the needs of 26 very unique departments. To manage this process measured against all available external funding and the use of finite resources in the general fund, this year's adopted budget was evaluated using a tiered approach with a primary focus on supporting existing service levels across the organization. This included incorporating the full cost of the employee recruitment and retention strategy implemented in August 2022, along with updated cost allocation plan charges, previously approved service level changes, and standard cost of doing business increases. The approach resulted in $83.9 million in adjustments, using nearly $20 million from the general fund to meet existing service levels, just to keep the lights on, so to speak. Next, funded service level increases were considered, ensuring sufficient funding to sustain changes for at least 2 years. Finally, service level increases requiring general fund support were evaluated using solid funding practices criteria. As Jody mentioned, relying on ongoing revenue for ongoing costs, those typically tied to additional staffing allocations, and one-time revenue and fund balance reserves for one-time costs. Those are generally associated with the purchase of equipment, vehicles, infrastructure maintenance, or upgrades. Combined, the second and third tiers resulted in another $29.6 million to support service level increases for a total budget increase of $113.5 million over the 2024 proposed budget. To provide context, our discussion of the 2024 adopted budget will benefit from a review of this chart showing the progression from the 2023 adopted budget of $1.65 billion to the 2024 proposed budget of $1.61 billion, alongside the recommended adjustments that will result in the operating budget for fiscal year 2024. The 2024 proposed budget established the county's spending authority effective July 1, 2023. The changes recommended today will effectively adjust the proposed budget to solidify the operating budget for the remainder of the fiscal year. Increasing the budget by $113.5 million, funded by $69.6 million in estimated revenue, the use of $21.9 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and $21.9 million in general fund support. If approved as recommended, this will result in a 2024 adopted budget totaling $1.73 billion, funded by $1.28 billion in estimated revenue, the use of $95.9 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and a general fund contribution of $350.2 million. The recommended 2024 adopted budget of $1.73 billion represents a 7% increase over the 2024 proposed budget. However, only a portion of all annual cost increases were included in the proposed budget due to the timing of information available. A clearer indication of budget growth is viewed year over year, noting a 4.5% increase over the 23 adopted budget. Budget appropriations represent the authorized spending level based on anticipated costs for the year. This chart provides an annual comparison of budgeted appropriations over multiple years back to the 2018 adopted budget, indicating an average annual increase of 5.4%. Outside the anomaly represented by fiscal year 2021, which contained significant anticipated costs associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, the largest increase occurred with the 2023 adopted budget, with a 10.8% increase that incorporated support for strategic initiatives introduced to enhance county parks and libraries, restore county properties, and stabilize the county workforce, along with establishing the Building Community Infrastructure Fund. To bring the adopted budget into perspective, $1.73 billion is representative of $3,160 per county resident based on population data from the California Department of Finance estimates as of January 1, 2023. Similar to the previous slide, this chart depicts historical budgeted appropriations, this time specifically for general fund budgets, averaging a 7.5% annual growth through the 2024 adopted budget. Again, the largest bump in appropriations is the 21.3% growth seen in fiscal year 2023, with the deliberate spend down of general fund reserves to establish the 3-year Building Community Services investment for libraries, parks, and county facility projects, and the Building Community Infrastructure Fund, as noted previously. A modest 0.8% increase in fiscal year 2024 continues support for year 2 of the 3-year Building Community Services investment funding, along with salaries and benefits aligned with updated costs. To bring the general fund budgets into perspective, $504 million is representative of $920 per county resident based on the same population data. And now I'll hand the presentation over to Angelica Ramos.
Good morning. I'll take us through the next few slides. So what we have on screen is a display of the distribution of general fund by department that's included in the recommended adopted budget. So while general fund departments receive direct allocations of general fund, there is general fund support that's distributed just based on board direction or because it's mandated for federal and state funded programs. The recommended adopted budget includes a distribution of $350.2 million in general fund support, and this information has generally been provided in our public document Budget at a Glance, which is available on our county website and in hard copy form if requested, to show just the distribution of general fund across all the departments. So in this display, to provide some perspective on where the local funding is budgeted, you can see on the screen we have the top 10 recipients, budget recipients of those general fund dollars, and we've noted that for every $10 in general fund budgeted, the largest department in our general fund budgets for public safety, the sheriff receives $4.31 of that $10 in general fund. Probation receives 88 cents. County operations listed there, third, receives 82 cents. And it's not actually a standalone department. It's a series of about 20 different budget units that include our appropriations for contingency funding, some mandated match. Those are those match dollars that need to go to federal and state funded departments, as well as others. Further, district attorney receives 69 cents of that. Assessor receives 23 cents, as listed there on the screen. All 4 public safety departments are represented in the county's top 10 recipients of net county cost, which is to be expected as these department services are primarily a local responsibility. But of note, the Strategic Building Community Service Investment Funding approved board strategy has elevated the placement of the General Services Agency and our Parks and Recreations Department as they receive funding from the deliberate spend down of reserves in support of local parks and county facilities. All other departments that receive net county cost combined there in the very last row at a total of $1.24 includes about 15 departments to include clerk recorder, health services agency, environmental resources, the library, behavioral health and recovery services, and 10 others. That lists the large departments within that list receive mostly federal and state dollars, so they just receive those smaller general fund dollars. So, discretionary revenue. Discretionary revenue is the largest source of funding for our general fund. And these funds are available for programs that the Board of Supervisors supports, the majority of which are used to support public safety, government-related services, and to meet those mandated match requirements that leverage the federal and state funded programs, as indicated on the list in the previous slide. Discretionary revenue is largely made up of property tax, statewide sales tax, interest on earnings. Those are kind of the big buckets within discretionary revenue. The chart on the screen includes a look back all the way to 2015 and what we've actually received per year through fiscal year 2023, along with a projection year in that light green column on the far right for 2024. The actual annual average received in the actual years from 2015 to 2023 averages about 6.7% growth year over year. The recommended 2024 adopted budget includes a discretionary revenue estimate of $299 million, which is an increase of 2.9% over what was projected when we came to your board in June with the 2024 proposed budget. And it is 5.7% larger than we had estimated in the 2023 adopted budget 1 year ago. When compared to actual receipts at year end of fiscal year 2023, the fiscal year 2024 budget you'll see appears to drop by about $5 million or 1.6%. That variance is largely attributed to the one-time benefit impact in 2023 of a $10 million annual American Rescue Plan Act standard allowance funding, which is allowable to address revenue loss during the pandemic. The adjustment in the 2024 proposed budget discretionary revenues largely attributed to $5.3 million in one-time increases in interest earnings. So this is what we've increased from the proposed budget to the adopted budget. largely one-time, treated one-time benefits, and 3.1 million in ongoing revenue related to additional property tax estimates from our issued property tax roll, offset by some decreases occurring in statewide sales tax as our share in the statewide pool begins to right-size post-pandemic. And we bring the recommendations in the adopted budget once we've taken a look at the budget through the lens of our long-range model. Annual budget analysis is completed with attention to this multi-year view of general fund use over a period of time. This provides guidance for those financial decisions and sustainability, ensures we have sustainability for critical services to the community. In this budget cycle, the long-range model has been completed through budget year 2028. So in the lines, the line chart displays the revenue and one-time funding sources alongside expenditures for the two most recent completed years. You've got fiscal year 2022 there on the left and fiscal year 2023. It will appear there in 22 that the lines align, and largely that was the impact of a year-end entry for fair market value adjustment, which made an impact and brought those two very, very close together. And in fact, that year, on paper, it would appear that we had to use $3.4 million in fund balance to balance the budget. That entry was reversed in fiscal year 2023, and so you see a slight separation there as we get the benefit of that, and revenue exceeds appropriations by $12.6 million. We spoke about those entries, those book entries, described them at length when we came with the first quarter report in November of last year. If anybody would like to take a look a little bit more at what that fair market value, those fair market value entries were and the impact of those. But moving to the right, future budget years show a gap between revenues and expenditures for which we use strategically our general fund reserves to balance through budget year 2028. So anytime we have a gap there, it implies we're not collecting the same amount of revenues we would have expenditures in that current year, and that would necessitate us to go into reserves in order to balance. But continuing to look out, we monitor that, and we come to you once every quarter to ensure that if that begins to materialize or to the level it materializes, we're able to course correct in future budget cycles. So here we have our pie chart of the total recommended adopted budget showing $1.73 billion displayed by board priority. In the dark green, we've got departments supporting a healthy community, which make up the largest portion of the budget at 42%. Following clockwise, next we have supporting a strong and safe community, which accounts for 21% of the county budget, and then followed closely by delivering efficient public services at 20.5%. Next, we have the departments in enhancing community infrastructure, receiving 14.9% of that budget. And to round that out, we've got the departments in developing a high-performing economy and promoting lifelong learning. These make up the remainder at 2% and 1.4%, respectively, of our total budget. So next, my colleague Joshua will pick it up from here. He will describe those key adjustments recommended in each of the priority areas, beginning with the budget for supporting a strong and safe community.
The recommended 2024 adopted budget for departments supporting a strong and safe community totals $362.3 million, an increase of $31.8 million over the 2024 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $121.8 million in estimated revenue, $21 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and $219.5 million in net county cost. There are 6 new positions in total recommended for this priority. Adjustments for the district attorney will add one block budgeted criminal investigator 1-2 position to address increased workloads in the special victims and domestic violence cases. Fund laptops for remote work, provide for data analysis of departmental outcomes, and provide leadership training. It is recommended to add a new classification of Assistant Chief Deputy District Attorney and to reclassify 5 block budgeted attorney 1-5 positions to Assistant Chief Deputy District Attorney. It is also recommended to reclassify 1 block budgeted Infrastructure Engineer 1-2 position to an Infrastructure Engineer 3. Adding 1 new Confidential Assistant 3 in probation will support department policy maintenance, training compliance for sworn staff, and management of department contracts and incoming Public Records Act requests. Additionally, it is recommended to block budget 1 Manager 3 to a Manager 1-2-3 to allow the department flexibility in filling the position. Budget adjustments for the public defender include the addition of 1 Chief Deputy Public Defender position to address supervisory span of control, the addition of 1 accounting technician to provide support for grants management and separation of fiscal duties, 1 block budgeted attorney 1-5 to create opportunities for a chief deputy to provide training and employee development, and 1 block budgeted manager 1-2 to support the Community Corrections Partnership, also known as CCP, to fund a homeboy-inspired program. Additionally, it is recommended to add 1 new classification of Assistant Chief Deputy Public Defender and reclassify 3 block budgeted attorney 1-5 positions to Assistant Chief Deputy Public Defender. The 2024 adopted budget includes additional appropriations to include overtime support for 2 divisions within the Sheriff's Department and purchase replacement equipment for the Special Weapons and Tactics, also known as SWAT team, the bomb team, and the identification teams, and a replacement training vehicle. At this time, I would like to introduce District Attorney Jeff Legero and welcome him to the podium.
Good morning, Chairman Condit, members of the board, CEO Hayes, County Council Bowes. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to highlight some of the successes that we've had at the DA's office. There are successes we've had because of the support that we've received from not only the board, but the CEO's office and everybody countywide. So I really appreciate that. When I took office, we kind of looked at the DA's office in 3 overall categories. One was recruitment and retention. The second was organizational structure, and the third was engagement. And how could we improve our operation to best support the board priority of supporting a strong and safe community? So with recruitment and retention, there are things that we could do internally to try and improve our efficiencies to make sure that the decision-making process was efficient, that we could move cases along as best we could. But we certainly needed bodies. We needed attorneys, we needed staff, we needed people to help to be as efficient as we could. So one of the first things that we undertook was talking with the CEO's office about the attorney trainee position. We were successful in getting the trainee position in place. We've been able to hire recent law school graduates, and we just brought on a law school student that we could bring on and put them into the misdemeanor departments and get them trained up. We found that the trainee position gave us an opportunity to see the available talent out there, to try and get people from the local area that were attending law school to get them to come home and come to work at the DA's office. So we've been targeting people from the area that are in law school or recently graduated from law school. We've been very successful with that. We've got 3 on board right now. We continue to go into the law schools and meet with various students that are coming out of law school, and we encourage them to come to work for us. And so far it's been a very good position, and we look forward to the success as we move forward. The trainee position is good because we get about 3 months between the time they graduate from law school and the time that they take the bar. So we get to have them in the office doing work for us. If they're successful in passing the bar, then we can promote them directly into a TDA position. So we have a pipeline coming from law school straight into the office. It makes us competitive with other offices out there too, because they've had positions like this for many, many years. And by the time that we would get applicants to our office, they had oftentimes been offered a job or gone to work for another DA's office. So now we're much more competitive. We're also using interns. We have high school interns, we have college interns, we have law school interns. These positions are volunteer, there's paid positions, and there's also college credit and credit positions. That's been very helpful. Again, that's getting people familiar with our office, get them interested in the kind of work that we do, and hopefully that if they do go off to college or off to law school, they'll consider us as a place they want to come back and work. We've also been very effective in recruiting experienced, talented attorneys from other offices, and I attribute that to the compensation package that the board had approved and made us competitive with other agencies. We brought in people with significant experience from other departments that have they've integrated into our office smoothly. They bring a different perspective. They have a lot of experience that is very important for us to have. It fills out our ranks to where we have very experienced attorneys, we have mid-level attorneys, and we have brand new trainee attorneys. So we have all the various needs of the office pretty well covered through those positions. For organizational structure, one of the most important things that we asked for, and it was studied and appears to be on the books today. It's the Assistant Chief Deputy District Attorney position. When we came into the office, looking at our office, structurally, we had the DA and Assistant DA, and then we had 5 Chief DDAs, and then we had our attorneys. And there was a gap in supervision, a gap in support, a gap in being able to support the attorneys in the courtroom the way we thought they needed to be supported. So if you think of this as our operation kind of in the law enforcement perspective, you'd have like the sheriff, the undersheriff, or a captain, a group of lieutenants, and then sergeants, and then the patrol or line deputies. What we were missing is that sergeant category. So the assistant chief DDAs will fill that role. They're going to be the field supervisors, they're going to be in the courtroom still with cases, but they're going to be available to the attorneys in the courtroom when they need at the time, immediate decision on a case. They can provide support in the courtroom as it's needed, rather than that attorney that has questions or that has a decision that has to be made rapidly, to have to track down a chief, find the assistant, find me to get that decision. So we feel that position will really allow us to better support the attorneys that are doing the work. We've also added an organized retail theft position. We felt that there was a need to have a prosecutor that was an expert in that particular area. You see the impact that organized retail theft is having on our local businesses, both from small to the big box stores. So we started meeting with loss prevention officers, the agencies, finding out what they need from us, how can we support them, and we decided that the best course of action was to have an organized retail theft prosecutor. That put us in a position to, when the state announced an organized retail theft grant, that put us in a position to be very competitive for that grant, working in collaboration with Modesto Police Department and making our application to the state for the grant. On September 14th, we were notified that we were one of the few winners of that grant. So we were awarded $1.5 million that will go towards the DDA position for an organized retail theft prosecutor. It will add a DA investigator position, and it will fund some public service announcements and some advertising that we plan to use to get the word out that if you're going to commit organized retail theft, you better find another county to do it, not Stanislaus County. We also appreciate the addition of a DA investigator. I sat in on lieutenant interviews, and all of the candidates were asked the question, what would you do if you had another DA investigator available to you? And without exception, they all said, I would add them to the Special Victim Unit, DV unit. So it is a critical position. We're very thankful that we got that. The amount of work that goes into those types of cases is tremendous, so having that extra body is going to be great. Lastly, we talked about engagement, and it wasn't just engagement with the community, it was engagement with businesses, with the agencies, with law schools, with colleges, with the students, trying to get our folks out into the community to meet with community organizations, service clubs, having community prosecutors, identifying prosecutors that represent our office very well, and assigning them to particular units or agencies or cities that they had an interest in. Turlock's been a real good success for us. We've got one of our prosecutors that goes out there, works with them on whatever issues that they may have. It's really about how can we as an agency better support those people that need our services, whether it's the community at large, if it's one of the agencies, or how do we just get out there and get people to recognize who we are and what we do and start to understand how we can support them. And it's a very good two-way street. We've opened up those lines of communication so people are more comfortable communicating with us if there is an issue and letting us know where the problems may lie so that we can better utilize our resources to make sure that we're addressing what it is that the community finds to be important to them. So we've had a lot of success with that. So with that, I just wanted to thank everybody for the support, the continued support. Our success is directly related to the support that you've given us along the way. I very much appreciate that, and I appreciate all the help that I've gotten from my department head colleagues. They've been very helpful when I've had questions or issues come up, and I can't thank everybody enough for all the support that we've gotten. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Could you just repeat that one little component? Is it a DA or a DA investigator that's interfacing with the cities?
It is. It can be both, but right now we've got the DDAs, the deputy district attorneys are out there. Yeah,
it's great.
Yep,
sounds like a great program. Thanks.
Yeah, so far so good. All right.
Other questions? Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the presentation and all the work you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thanks for everything. Thank you.
The recommended 2024 adopted budget for departments supporting a healthy community totals $694.4 million, an increase of $34 million over the 2024 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $640.6 million in estimated revenue, $28.8 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and $25 million in net county cost. Staffing adjustments for this priority area net 6 new positions in total. The adopted budget for Aging and Veteran Services includes 1 block budgeted accountant, 1-2 position to provide fiscal and grant support for the program to encourage active, rewarding lives, also known as PEARLS, and new contract services and 1 new Veterans Services representative position to support timely eligibility assistance for those seeking veterans services. Adjustments will also provide digital literacy support and training for seniors for the Federal Affordability Connectivity Program to ensure access to affordable internet. Budget adjustments for behavioral health and recovery services include the addition of 2 Manager 4 positions, with 1 to serve as the Chief of Access, Crisis, and Medication Services, and 1 to serve as the Chief of Education Partnership and Engagement to provide critical management support. Additionally, recommendations include funding subscription fees associated with the new electronic health record and classification of 4 block budgeted psychiatric 1-2 positions to block budgeted mental health clinician 1-2 positions to align with department needs. Adjustments will allow the Community Services Agency to address increased CalWORKS and foster care assistance program caseloads and increased average assistance costs. Right-size electronic data processing costs for software purchases and renewals, and complete a planned audiovisual upgrade project for the CSA large training room and cafeteria training room spaces. The adopted budget for the Health Services Agency includes the addition of 1 chief physical occupational position, 1 block budgeted physical occupational therapist 1-2 position, 1 physical therapy assistant certified occupational therapy assistant position, and 1 therapist aide position to support the physical rehabilitation unit. It is also recommended to add 1 block budgeted mental health clinician 1-2 position to meet maternal child adolescent health scope of work related to maternal mental health. These positions are offset by the deletion of 1 block budgeted mental health clinician 1-2, 1 block budgeted public health nurse 1-2, and 1 block budgeted staff nurse. Finally, adjustments will accommodate the replacement of 1 van damaged beyond repair. And now, Patrick will describe budget adjustments for the next few priority areas, beginning with developing a high-performing economy.
Hi, good morning. The recommended 2024 adopted budget for departments developing a high-performing economy totals $34.6 million. That's a $4.6 million increase over the 2024 proposed budget, and it's funded by $30.7 million in revenue, $5,000 in fund balance, and $3.9 million in net county cost. There is 1 new position recommended for this priority area. The 2024 adopted budget for the Agricultural Commissioner will support the replacement of manual roll-up doors with fully automated power-driven system to address safety and Americans with Disabilities Act compliance concerns, as well as replacement of the lighting system due to safety concerns, and laptop computers for administering the California Department of Food and Agricultural online state licensing exams. Additionally, the budget will allow the department to install additional security proximity card entry locks in response to a sheriff safety assessment. The workforce development budget includes the addition of 1 staff services coordinator position to create and develop sector strategy meetings for the in-demand sectors in Stanislaus County. Additionally, the department will be able to purchase 1 new vehicle and ADA equipment to support hiring and outreach events. The recommended 2024 adopted budget for the department promoting lifelong learning totals $24.5 million. This is a $1.9 million increase over the 2024 proposed budget, and it's funded by the budget's funded by $15.5 million in revenue, $4.6 million in department fund balance, and $4.4 million in net county costs. There are no staffing changes recommended for this priority area. In addition to several technical adjustments to right-side costs for the library for fiscal year 2024, the budget covers the replacement of 2 cargo vans needed to transfer books, supplies, and equipment throughout the library's 13 locations. The recommended 2024 adopted budget for departments enhancing community infrastructure totals $256 million. This is a $21.3 million increase over the 2024 proposed budget. This funded by $207.8 million in revenue, $28 million in fund balance retained earnings, and $20.2 million in net county costs. There are no staffing changes recommended for this priority area. Budget adjustments for environmental resources will allow the department to replace a grader and tractor mower and add a scraper at the Fink Road landfill. Additionally, the department will be able to construct an all-weather tipping pad and line haul roads at the landfill to provide greater access for franchise haulers and public customers to the site during the winter months. The Parks and Recreation budget will support safety and security upgrades to the lobby of the administrative building, including the addition of a full window barrier at the front counter and locks and a proximity access for a conference room that's accessible from the lobby. Additionally, it is recommended to reclassify 2 manager 2 positions to block budgeted manager 1, 2, 3 positions, and reclassify 1 block budgeted park maintenance worker 1, 2, and 1 park maintenance worker 3 to park supervisor. And adjustments for planning community development will support a new automated permitting process program to comply with the Solar Access Act, Senate Bill 379, and fund the Camino Permit Guide software program. The 2024 adopted Public Works budget will fund the right-of-way phase of the North County Corridor High-Capacity Expressway project, on-site improvements for the 1-person patcher and tank supported in the proposed budget, and contracted services for tree trimming within the county's area of responsibility. And with that, it is my pleasure to invite Angela Freitas, Director of Planning and Community Development, to the podium.
Good morning, Chairman Condit, Mr. Hayes, and Mr. Bowes, and board members. I'm Angela Freitas, the Director of Planning and Community Development, and it's my pleasure to have the opportunity this morning to highlight the work of the Planning and Community Development Department, a department whose work is focused on building community through the development of a built environment that supports a healthy economy, community well-being, and resource protection. When we think of our built environment these days, we often think of our homes and the surroundings in which those homes are located. And in today's times, it's difficult to have any conversation regarding homes and housing that does not lead to a conversation on housing affordability and the impacts changes in our housing market have had and will have on individuals and communities. As one of two departments with its own dedicated section on the board's agenda, the Planning Department spends a lot of time in this chamber presenting on a variety of land use and community development topics, and housing is one of those topics that comes up in many different forms, from zoning that controls the placement of housing to subdivision maps that create new lots on which housing is developed, to fees that cover the cost of entitlement and developing housing, and to funding to help rehabilitate existing housing and to support development of new affordable housing. It would be easy to spend the next 30 minutes talking about efforts to address housing, but for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to stay very high level in providing an overview of the current housing efforts that the Planning Department is involved with. As with all other cities in the Central Valley, the sixth cycle housing element is now underway with a deadline for adoption this fiscal year. Stanislaus County's draft housing element is currently out for public review and available on the department's website. The housing element's housing plan identifies goals, programs, and actions that will be undertaken within the 8-year period to support housing in the unincorporated area of the county. Beyond the work that's still needed this fiscal year to get the housing element before the board for consideration, the Planning Department will spend much of the next fiscal year, maybe 2 fiscal years, processing needed rezones and implementing programs to support the housing element's adoption. This board, recognizing the importance of addressing housing, not just in the unincorporated area, but in the entire county, authorized the Housing Stanislaus Initiative in 2021, an effort the CEO's office and the Planning Department have taken on in partnership. The effort has involved the input of various stakeholders critical to the housing framework within our community in an effort to work together for real housing solutions through a shared understanding of needs, challenges, and opportunities associated with housing. The work of the Housing Stanislaus Initiative is winding down, and the results of that effort will be presented later this year with the release of a report and a housing summit scheduled for November. The report and summit information will be posted on housingstanislaus.org. In connection with the Housing Stanislaus effort, the department is working on the development of an affordable housing plan, inventorying available funding and housing programs administered by the county as a means of setting a framework to best leverage funding available for housing development in the unincorporated area. Other housing-related efforts the Planning Department will be working on include the development of 6 accessory dwelling unit template plans developed in partnership with 6 cities and made available online to property owners free of charge. These plans are plan-checked ready to current building code standards and ready for use in obtaining building permits. Those plans are posted on the department's website. The department has made available an online interactive permit guide allowing property owners to explore the feasibility of developing an accessory dwelling unit on their property. The department is working on a feasibility analysis for the residential development of 4 vacant lots owned by the county in the communities of Empire and Keys. And the department continues with its efforts in partnership with County Public Works to expand public sewer availability in unincorporated urban areas, using community development block grant funds and state water board funding as a means of both conserving existing house and opening up opportunities for new housing. In the midst of all these housing efforts, this fiscal year marks the county's first year as the lead entity for the new Stanislaus Home Consortium. After a 20-year partnership with the City of Turlock as the lead entity for the Home Consortium, the lead is now shifted to the county in a transition that means building a lot of new programs and establishing a lot of new guidelines and a lot of new training that the Planning Department staff is going to be undertaking. When I look at all the work related to housing that the Planning Department has before it over the next fiscal year, let alone this fiscal year, it's a bit overwhelming, but I have great faith. We have an amazing staff, and we're going to be very successful in the efforts that we undertake. When it comes to housing and all development within the unincorporated area, the planning department is there from first call to last nail, with the planners taking those first calls on how their property can be entitled, to building inspectors verifying code compliance through the building permit process, and all staff working on a variety of tasks to aid in the overall process of developing. This board's support over the last few years has been very instrumental in helping us address housing and all of the needs of our built environment. For that support, I'd like to say thank you to the board from all the planning department staff, and to thank the board and the CEO's office for the opportunity to make this presentation this morning. Thank you.
And finally, the recommended 2024 adopted budget for the department's delivering efficient public services totals $353.9 million, an increase of $19.9 million over the 2024 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $233.8 million in estimated revenue, $13.4 million in fund balance, and $106.7 million in net county cost. There are 5 new positions in total recommended for this priority area. Budget adjustments for the assessor will support the use of extra help and overtime to address critical and mandated operations, staff vacancies, and the experience deficit due to the loss of seasoned appraisers in the office. Additionally, adjustments will cover costs of a subscription-based software application intended to empower appraisers to evaluate commercial and industrial properties using up-to-date market data, a resource often not accessible to the assessor. The clerk recorder will decrease costs in line with anticipated recording revenue loss associated with the recent housing market downturn and its repercussions on real property recordings. The adopted budget includes the addition of 1 block budgeted manager 123 position to serve as a business manager to ensure efficient financial operations and administrative functions in the county council office. Additionally, it is recommended to add 1 new classification of Chief Deputy County Counsel to provide supervision, training, succession planning, and development opportunities, and to reclassify 3 block budgeted Deputy County Counsel 1 through 5 positions to Chief Deputy County Counsel. Budget adjustments for the General Services Agency include the addition of 1 block budgeted buyer, senior buyer, to support the Central Services Purchasing Division, and 1 staff services analyst and 1 equipment services technician to support the Fleet Services Division. The adopted budget includes 1 new IT manager position to serve as the enterprise cloud architect in Information Technology Central to design and implement cloud-based solutions and ensure cloud system security and compliance. At this time, I would like to introduce and welcome to the podium our assessor, Don Gakel.
Thanks for reminding Don who he was.
Just mesmerized by everything. No, timing was bad. I was asking a question of my colleague right at the inopportune moment. Chair Condit, members of the board, CEO Hayes, and County Council Bose, Don Gakel, Stanislaus County Assessor. My pleasure to speak to you this morning. We are proud as the Assessor's Office to be the foundation of the county property tax assessment base. And in doing that, we work with the Recorder's Office in getting documents. We also work closely with the tax collector and the Auditor's Office in not only the administrative processing part of the property tax system, but also in addressing taxpayer concerns and questions. The purpose of our office is to discover all taxable property in the county, value all assessable property in the county, value changes in ownership, value new construction, update assessor parcel maps, maintain public documents at the counter, and our most important job for you is to deliver the assessment roll by July 1st every year. Public services that we provide at county are online services, are assessment roll inquiry, assessment roll value notices to taxpayers. We have saved significant money over the years in not mailing annual property notices and making them available online. We maintain property characteristics. We have online assessment maps, property statement filing, online forms using the Cal Assessor eForms site, where taxpayers all over the state can access that site, get forms with their county letterhead, and some fill out online and some print out to send to their assessor as required. We provide assistance in filing claims. We have educational material on real property and personal property assessment, exemptions, exclusions, tax relief, and assessment appeals. Now, in preparing this, I kind of went back to the first year I started working in the assessor's office, which was 1986. And in that year, the assessor's office completed 23,340 real property appraisal units with full-time staff of 71 employees. In the most recent year of 2022, the office completed 31,104 real property appraisal units with 61 full-time employees. Although that's a little misleading, like a lot of county departments, we had significant staff turnover. We had significant vacancies during the year, and our effective staff level was probably more in the mid-50s. Of that, we completed 11,901 changes in ownership, approximately half of those through direct enrollment using IT programs that we developed in part in this county and that are continuing on through our megabyte property tax system. Our goal in county is to minimize the time required to process an assessment for a change in ownership, tracking from discovery to taxpayer value notification. And as part of that, we have done a lot of IT innovation projects. In fact, most of our asks with the board, and we thank you for your support in the past, are for IT innovation improvements. We continue on with the scanning of assessment records. To date, we have scanned over 140,000 paper appraisal records, and of the 162,000 total parcels. We've also this year scanned over 22,000 paper business property files scanned. That our business property division is essentially fully digital now. And we've probably scanned over 1.75 million pages at a cost of less than $100,000 over the years, using extra help. Currently, we have college interns scanning for us, and that process is moving forward rapidly at the moment. We currently have 3 part-time employees working on that, using our own scanners. Is also providing office training and experience, and we have over the years hired several of those types of interns into full-time positions in the office with great success for our office. We recently this year are rolling out Just Appraised. It is an optical scanning software, and we implemented it for processing our 2023 deeds. The system scans, reads deeds, autofills data fields from the deed, and reviews change in ownership statements. We've worked closely with the vendor and the clerk recorder's office to facilitate and troubleshoot the scanning process. The Just Appraised software integrates with our megabyte property tax system, and after visual review, our assessment technicians are able to upload data without having to key the routine changes in ownership. It also frees them up to focus their time and expertise on the review of more complicated changes in ownership. There's been a learning curve, obviously, and we've had to make some tweaks this year, but we fully expect the system to be providing us up-to-date keying from the recorder's office by the end of the year. And we continue to work on our GIS parcel fabric. We currently have an extra help position there to help us transition our paper maps into the GIS system. And just an update on our grant program from several years ago. We brought that to the board to implement a commercial evaluation software program. That program is fully in force now and has been a tremendous benefit to the office in valuing not only current sales, but in valuing properties that were on a decline in value status. And we thank the board for all the past support, and we will continue to innovate using information technology services to improve and become more efficient for the public. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. The information on screen shows the summary of changes affecting the position allocation count since the 2023 adopted budget, which included 4,746 allocated positions. The net adjustment to the allocation count throughout fiscal year 2023 totaled 41 new positions. All positions effective July 1 or later, including those identified in the 2024 proposed budget, added another 61 positions to the organization. Recommendations included in the 2024 adopted budget net 18 new positions. If approved as recommended, authorized positions will total 4,866, excluding any positions approved by separate board action today. The chart on screen depicts the number of full-time allocated positions, the light green at top, and the number of full-time employees, the dark green line below, along with the vacancy rate identified by percentage back to July 1, 2010 for comparison purposes. As noted on the previous slide, the recommended 2024 adopted budget includes the addition of 18 new positions, bringing the allocation count to 4,866. The widening gap between the two lines indicates the increasing vacancy rate that has occurred over time. The county's employee recruitment and retention strategy was approved on August 16, 2022, and included an immediate 5% base wage increase and implementation of the Employee Choice Bonus Plan to ensure the county's ability to recruit the best qualified candidates to fill vacant positions and to retain existing employees who hold valuable knowledge and experience that contribute to the success of the county organization. Early indicators show that the strategy is having a positive impact in filling vacant positions, as seen in the uptick in the filled positions below on the last two data points in the lower green line. From 3,882 filled positions on July 1, 2022 to 4,036 filled positions on July 1, 2023, an increase of 4% year over year, reversing the downward trajectory experienced in the prior 3 fiscal years. If you would like to know more about the 2024 adopted budget, you can find the electronic version online at stancounty.com/budget. Alternately, you can go to the Stanislaus County main page at stancounty.com, scroll towards the bottom of the page, and click on the piggy bank to find the 2024 adopted budget as well as budgets from prior periods. We have 9 staff recommendations for your consideration this morning. 1, accept the 2024 adopted budget as presented from the Chief Executive Officer. 2, conduct the scheduled public hearing to receive public comment and input on the recommended operational plan for fiscal year 2024. 3, direct and approve any changes the Board of Supervisors chooses to make to the 2024 adopted budget, then formally adopt the budget. 4, authorize the Chief Executive Officer and Auditor Controller to make any necessary technical adjustments to implement the 2024 adopted budget. 5, direct the Chief Executive Officer and the Auditor Controller to prepare the adopted budget document and supporting schedules in accordance with state law and submit to the State Controller prior to December 1, 2023. 6, amend the salary and position allocation resolution to reflect the recommended changes identified in the 2024 adopted budget to become effective at the start of the first full pay period beginning on or after October 7, 2023, unless otherwise indicated. 7, approve contracts and/or agreements listed in Attachment 3 in cumulative amounts of $200,000 or greater since July 1, 2021, and authorize the General Services Agency Director, Purchasing Agent, or previously approved department head to sign. 8, adopt the updated Building Community Infrastructure Fund policy as outlined in the report and detailed in Attachment 5. And 9, approve a total appropriations budgetary limit for annual appropriations of tax revenue for fiscal year 2024 in accordance with the provisions of Propositions 4 and 111 and establish a general operating limit of $509,292,119 using the population and inflation methodology per Attachment 6. With that, it ends our presentation of the 2024 adopted budget. Staff are available to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you for the presentation. Do any board members have any questions or comments? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll open it up to the public. Do any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Yes, Debbie.
Good morning. Very well put together. It kind of reminded me when I was at a board meeting at the school under LCAP. It's my lingo you guys are speaking. Debbie Martinez. I am founder of We're La Raza Parents Union. I'm also on the board of the Latino Community Roundtable. They opened it up for educational liaison. I also sit with California Rural Legal Assistance. They also opened up an educational liaison. That would be me. And so I notice here under the agreements that you have education, item 2. And it says here, approval of amendment for participation agreement, and then after workforce, we have education, so now I'm conflicted. Do I come to the board when I need help with education? I just heard the DA talk about all kinds of wonderful stuff that's happening now with his department. I would like to integrate with you, Thomas, and you, Jody, that we also pay attention to our children. We have a portal that they're mandated to go through. When they go to school and they come home victimized, where's our help? Where's our portal? Where's our 911? Where's our CPS? So now, as an activist, I am asking for the policies and procedures right here where it says that you guys are in agreements to, under some sort of agreement for education. I'd like to see protocols and procedures. I'd like to know my pathway to come to you guys. I have a little boy that just got out of surgery, went home, victimized, had surgery. I can't take them all and go get them legal counsel. Somebody needs to be held accountable when our children are coming home victimized under the civil codes, child endangerment, child neglect, and child abuse. This is where we need these gaps closed for our children. So if it's education here, I'd like to know more about it. Thank you. Once again, Debbie Martinez. Go ahead, Jody.
Ms. Martinez, would you mind telling us exactly which document you're referring to?
It's right here where it says B, Chief Executive Office, number 2, where it says approval of amendment to participate agreement, and then it has right after workforce, and you know how I all feel about that. If we don't educate them, how can they go into workforce? Right next to that, there's education. That's what would be me. So is that public education that you guys are referring to right here?
So you're referring to item B2 on today's agenda that was passed on the consent calendar from our Behavioral Health and Recovery Services Department. I would invite you at the conclusion of this portion of the meeting that our Behavioral Health Director can review with you the details of exactly what is referenced in terms of education related to that agenda item.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Jody.
And Tony,
Thank you.
could you raise your hand, just so you know? See in the back right there? That's who you're going to be talking to.
All right, thank you for your comments. Any additional comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for comments, questions, or action. Terry?
Sure. You want to go first?
Yeah.
I will go first. First, thank you guys very much. Again, just a thorough presentation, and I appreciate Jewel and Joshua and Angelica and Jeff and Patrick, Angela and Don. I think that's everybody.
Thank you guys all for your presentations this time. As we always say, we sit up here and when you look at this budget, it's 400 and something pages, and everybody's thinking like this is the first time we looked at it. We have all had briefings, we've all gone through this and had our input and been involved in this up to this point. So this is just kind of the final phase of it for us. And I hate when people think that we were just approve this without really even. There's been a lot of time, obviously a lot of great staff time involved, and then time with all of us to get involved and have our input in this. So again, thank you all very much. Great presentation. I went back and looked just to compare. When I first started 2011, I think it was 2011, when I still had hair. I had some hair still back then. And our general fund balance at that point was like it was 93 million. It was actually 93 million back in 2000. And it's 197 million we're anticipating it to be right now. So we've more than doubled it here. And that's our fund balance. That's the savings account that Jody was talking about there. That's our savings account. So just how far we've come from those times to where we are right now. And then our actual budget, our actual appropriations budget back in 11-12 was 891 million. It's 1.7 million, 1.73. So it's just amazing how good things have been for a while here. And I know that we have continued year after year to worry about, what's coming, and when that shoe's going to drop, and we're going to end up back in those dark days that we were, I know at least when I started, of cuts and unbelievable things we were trying to do just to get through it. But it's because of the way we handle this budget, the fact that our fund balance, our general fund balance has increased. We put this money away to get us through these hard times. We always talk about this, and that's how we got through those hard times, was because our forefathers, our predecessors here, did a great job of putting money away, because the day will come again. We all know that day's coming again. We don't continue on the high. There's highs and lows. And so that's what we work towards, to be prepared for those lows, to not have to cut services so much to the public. So anyway, I think we've done a great job on all that, and I appreciate all the work that everybody's done. The vacancy rate still is concerning. I know it's gotten better. It's up 4%, but it still is a concerning number. It is across the country, and everybody's, all of our jobs, our day jobs, we're all concerned about the inability to find individuals that want to work and that can then help provide the services that we need to provide. And so, but I think we're making progress. I mean, obviously we are making progress. That's great. And it is a great place to work, to come to the county and work. And I always think what's so great about it, and the public just doesn't see this, but I think we get to see it a lot, just how dedicated the people are that work here for Stanislaus County. And you really have to have a desire to serve the public. It's not just a job. You don't just come here and show up to work and go home at the end of the day and that's it. You are serving 550,000 people in this community, and it's very impressive to see the individuals that we have, and we get to see that all the time with the recognition for years of service. It's very impressive for the people that we have working for us, and we are so appreciative of all of them and what they're doing. And I just encourage people to try to get other people to come to work here, because we sure could use some more help to do that job of serving the community. So nothing specific on the budget that we haven't already talked about and gone through. I do want to bring up, and I know we're talking about this, and this is just CASA, court-appointed special advocates. I've talked about this a little bit before. I know we have briefings coming up for everybody. I would love for us to figure out a way to try to get some funding for CASA. They are funded in multiple counties across the state. I know of 12 of them specifically that actually fund the counties, help fund their CASA. So, and I know the work that they do at CASA, court-appointed special advocates, the work that they do for individuals. We talk about kids and how to do more preventative work instead of just treating symptoms. And this is an area where these kids are in our foster care system and going through our system and need individuals' help to help them navigate that. And CASA is an organization that does that and helps these kids and helps them get out of the system and become self-sufficient. And any money that we invest in the court-appointed special advocates will come back to us tenfold, and getting individuals out of the system and stopping that generational issue that we find so often in our country for individuals that get stuck in the system, have been failed by adults, and then at some point continue on, and the taxpayer continues to have to pay for them. So anyway, that's my plug. I know, Jody, you've got some meetings scheduled, I think, with everybody to talk about that, and I'd love to see something come back to the board and us to be able to find a way to get some money to CASA. Okay, so besides that, I think I am very happy with what you guys have put together here. I'm hoping the shoe doesn't drop, but we know it's going to come eventually, but I think we're prepared for it when that does happen. And thank you all very much for the presentation today.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry. Any additional comments or questions?
Yeah.
Manny?
Just to Terry's point on the savings, 197, but this also includes a drawdown that we've been doing for the last 3 years. So we are not only putting money away in our savings account, but also addressing deferred maintenance when it comes to parks, our libraries. So I want to, just for the public's acknowledgement of that as well, that that money is not only spent for when the shoe does fall, but reinvestment back into our community, and allowing for our departments to hire with retention and or getting retention and recruitment with higher wages. So it is being reinvested in the community. And again, like Supervisor Withrow said, there's a lot of information, but it's not taken lightly. We take it very seriously. It's your taxpayer dollars. We're just stewards of it, and we couldn't do it without staff. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Manny. Vito?
Thank you very much, Chair. And a big thank you to the budget team. Again, we're only as good as the information we get, and I'm always very confident when we go through our budget hearings that we're seeing really good numbers. To the 3 department heads, so my favorite part of all these presentations is always hearing from department heads. It is, this board and the CEO team wants to empower department heads to do better. And today you hear about these programs that are going on, efficiencies that, quite frankly, I never hear enough of, or you've told me and I've forgotten. That wouldn't surprise me either. But I just love to hear those things as we're trying to create a more efficient, forward-facing organization. The vacancy rate, you're going to hear that over and over and over again. And I'll put it in the context of what I've heard my 2 colleagues say, because I've heard some criticism of this board and our reserve level. Remember, there's an intentional spend down going, and you've heard that, to bring it down a little bit. But the reason that the fund balance has grown is because of the vacancy rate. If we had as much forward-facing employees providing services as is in this budget, we'll run a huge deficit. There's actually a 5% vacancy rate built into this. It just happens to be 16%. But we want to hire people. We want to provide services for the 550,000 residents of Stanislaus County. So again, because the fund balance had built up over the years, we're doing an intentional spend down, and we had chosen a couple of departments as well as being able to provide bonuses for retention and or hiring. So we think there's great things going on in Stanislaus County. We're continually trying to be better. I know most of the public sees the roads and or a sheriff's deputy, but we heard from departments that people generally don't interface with that are just as important. And we don't like to put too much importance on any one department because we collectively succeed together. And the opposite of that is true. It's not, we all need to be working together. And I see, I've always pointed out that the public defender and the district attorney sit next to each other, right next to each other all the time. That's a good thing for the public. Even though they may be on opposite sides, that's a good thing. And so we encourage people to work together collaboratively, and I see that happening more and more every day. So again, I just appreciate all the work you guys have done.
Excellent. All right, well, I will go ahead and entertain a motion. This is a 4/5 required vote.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Graywall, a second by Supervisor Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you again for the presentation. All right, moving on to correspondence.
This board has received the claims as noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of claims and refer as recommended on the agenda. Board of Supervisor reports. Do we have anything to report out?
So I should have written some stuff down, but I know at the last meeting I was in Washington, D.C. on behalf of the Regional Policy Council through StanCog, and most of the trip was spent on air quality, trains, rail, transportation, inland ports. I'm trying to think, movement of goods and services, and water. We visited EPA, Department of Transportation, the whole congressional delegation. We added a couple, Congressman Olbernolte now has a little bit of Kern County, so we were able to add one more congressman to the bunch along with our 2 U.S. senators. Every time we go, and I know that most of this board has been there, you're continually not sure of how your message is being received, but you have to be there. You have to continually remind them of the importance, why we need funding into the San Joaquin Valley, underrepresented area. That was one component. The other great thing that I brought home was COVID from Washington, D.C., so along with some of my colleagues. But it was an interesting time. I can honestly say that I in our discussions with the congressional folks and staff, I'd never felt so much pessimism because of the potential government shutdown and just that they didn't see a path. I try and put a good spin on that and remind them that it doesn't change the issues we have in the San Joaquin Valley, and we're here to tell you about them. And you figure your part out, and I'll let you know exactly what it is we're looking for. So, again, I thought it was a good visit generally, but when I walked away, I thought there was more pessimism than I'd seen in a long time.
I do have a quick report. I attended the RCRC annual meeting, which is the California Rural County Caucus, and I did have the pleasure of witnessing a great presentation by our very own Ruben Imperial, who did a presentation on the CARES Court and all the progress that's being made. So Ruben, great job. It was great to be there and witness that, and you did phenomenal. So anyone else have anything to report for Ruben?
Yeah, just real quick, Chance. Just want to recognize Bill Johnson. He spoke during public comment. Spent a year as chairman of our Veterans Commission, and I just wanted to thank him for his leadership and time that he put in. Although he'll be staying on the executive team as secretary, I just wanted to thank him for his leadership and time that he spent on the commission.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, I was in Washington, D.C., but it wasn't on business. It was to move our daughter from Charlotte to D.C. with a U-Haul. Actually, my wife was involved in that part of it. But while we were there, we took the time to go and visit Congressman Duarte, and we went and saw Congressman McClintock. Both of them were there, just sat down, got to talk to him for about half an hour. And Vito's right. At that time, when we got there, it was Thursday, and just some chaos going on back there, and they were all very anxious about whether they were going to have to stay for the weekend, if the shutdown's happening, and just trying to get to a point. And then also Congressman Ralph Norman, a guy from South Carolina, who, anyway, that we know from our daughter being there. So anyway, I encourage everyone, when you're back there, take the time to go see your congressman. Let them know you're thinking about them and that you're concerned about what kind of things they can do for us back here in our community. So it was worth the stop just to get in there and see him. So unofficial business. So.
Well, I had the privilege this weekend. Modesto celebrated its 150th anniversary 3 years late. It was slated to happen in 2020, but because of COVID, it prolonged it and was celebrated this year alongside our sister cities. So we had representation from the sister cities for Modesto from Kurume, Japan, France, Mexico, Canada, and Vijayawada, India. And so got to meet all the mayors and delegation from those countries that are sister cities with Modesto. It was a great celebration at a venue here in downtown, very well attended.
Awesome, and I do want to invite Gavin, who represents Congressman Duarte's office, if he has anything to report. Gavin, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, county staff committee. Thank you, Gavin Klein, Congressman Duarte's office. I want to give you guys all a quick update of what the Congressman's been up to here in the district within the last couple of weeks. Congressman's a firm believer if you're not in the district, you don't know what's going on, so it's great to see from the top down in our office, the Congressman is extremely active within the district. Congressman Duarte was able to join the community and many elected officials for the Mexican Independence Day event at Crow's Landing. It was a great event. To celebrate the culture, history, and traditions, and Congressman Duarte was truly honored to be there with the community. We wanted to thank the South Modesto Business United El Remitito for hosting that. That was a great event with a ton of people there, so that was great. Congressman Duarte was also able to join UC Merced Professor Richard Gomez for a showing of the mural, which is a dual grant with the Carnegie Art Center, and it was right outside of our congressional office, so we had the honor of seeing that from start to finish, and then them revealing the mural was truly amazing to see, and bringing that culture there as well to downtown Turlock. Congressman Duarte was also able to go to the Syrian community, their 9th annual festival here at the Stanislaus County Fairgrounds. Congressman Duarte was honored to be there to preserving the Syrian heritage. The last one I'll leave you with the Congressman's activity in the district is the Congressman was able to join the End Alzheimer's Walk at the Garcia Park in Modesto. It was a great event with a ton of support there. My grandma has Alzheimer's, so it was really special for me to be there with the Congressman. And the Congressman Duarte was truly inspired by the overwhelming display of unity and hope in the ongoing fight for Alzheimer's. So I want to thank you all for your time. If there's any questions, always feel free to reach out to myself or our office. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. All right, moving on to Legislative Fiscal Management Report, CEO Hayes.
Just a quick note to acknowledge that the legislature is now on recess until January. However, there are a number of important bills that still sit on the governor's desk for consideration, and we're advocating on those same bills we have been throughout this entire session.
Awesome. And we do have closed session today.
Yes, we have closed session. We have conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1. We have one case, Maria Ruiz Perez et al. Versus Oakdale Irrigation District and County of Stanislaus et al. And that's in the Stanislaus County Superior Court, and the case number is CV 19004901. With that, it'd be appropriate for public comment.
All right. Any members of the public wish to comment? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 11:18. Thank you to Deputy Gingrich for looking over us today.